Hey everyone, Ice King here, and welcome back to the coldest, the chillest, possibly the most philosophicalist War Machine podcast out there. I am back here with Ross. Say hello. And we have a special guest, Spencer from Spen's Painting. What's up, man? Now that we're back and running, could you do your intro again? Of who you are and how you got into War Machine?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'm Spencer, and I got into War Machine kind of with the start of with this new 2-player starter set that came out not too long ago. Before that, I was into Warhammer and have been doing that pretty consistently since around February, March of 2020, just before the lockdown hit in the UK. And obviously, when lockdown hit, couldn't really do a lot of gaming, so it was all on the painting side of things. And yeah, just built up a bit of a social media following and made some videos here and there. And yeah, just branching out now into more games, and War Machine's a really cool one.
Yeah, your channel's awesome. If you guys haven't seen the channel below, it'll be linked below. But I was watching through some of your videos. I liked your orc one, where you did the brown base coat and the white zenithal on top. I've been doing that with a few of mine, but I've been doing like a blue base coat and then a white on top. And just mix it with the different like tones as an undertone to set the whole temperature of the model. And that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you can do with more out of the box techniques. So like, obviously everyone knows the sort of like, base coat, wash, highlight, edge highlight, sort of normal transition of painting. But when you get into like the more weird and wonderful ways of you can paint stuff, that's what I really enjoy. So like using the different base coat and then a zenithal and then a contrast paint or a speed paint over the top to see how that turns out using color theory a bit. It's really fun.
Yeah, experimenting has been a lot of fun because it's also a lot of the experimenting you can do with speed paints and contrast paints are really quick, and like you can get through models very quickly.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, if everyone had enough time in the world to paint every model perfectly, then it'd be great. But no one does, do they? So everyone's ready.
Yeah,
no one's painting like competition level for a whole army. So having those tools there that people can use to just quickly, put a coat on a model, and that's that part of the model done. It's great. I think it's nice as well that we've got a few different manufacturers of them now, because it gives them more competition. Competition makes them either improve or
makes them better.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Exactly.
The contrast paints were great from Citadel when they first came out because they were like the thing that broke that mold. Army Painter did theirs. And then they were like a pretty rough formula with the paint reactivation. And then they immediately like fixed it and then launched an entire line. And then they came out with the best speed paint metallics.
Yeah. See, metallics are a weird one, aren't they? Because it's like, it's so weird trying to think of like, oh, you put a metallic on, it's one coat and it does the metallics and the shades and everything. But there's so many different things you can do with them. So I like using them to make colored metallics. So, for example, if you're doing a model and it's like silver all over and then gold trim, for example, you can just spray the whole model silver, and then use like a yellowish contrast paint just on the trim, and you've instantly got like a nice gold trim on the gold. It's like
it's so cool. I love it. Contrast paints have saved me.
There's so many different ways to do so many the same effect 3 different ways.
Yeah, and that's one of the best things about the hobby, isn't it? That there's so many ways that you can get a really nice finished looking model without having to follow exactly what somebody else does.
Mm-hmm.
There's no right or wrong way of doing it. I mean, there is a wrong way of doing it, I suppose. If you just like absolutely coat your model in paint, you can't see what's going on. That's not really ideal, but
look, some people are into super thickums.
I can't say nothing. All right, when I first started painting Warhammer, those models were so thick. I mean, you could probably scrape paint off them with a spoon. Like the eyes, you just give the big giant red just all over their face, and trying to get that. It comes with time for sure.
Yeah.
But I think everybody's first model should be just an absolute inch thick coating of paint.
I still have my first models, and they're something to look back at.
What was your first model?
Assault on Black Reach, Space Marines, and then after that, I painted those normally, like just base coats, then choose the trim, and then I learned how to dry brush, on the orcs. So I dry brushed all the skin, and that was my groundbreaking moment of that's how you do the skin quickly.
Yeah. See, that's
I
another
still wish
technique that's great.
Yeah.
It's something that everyone picks, especially like everyone has this idea of dry brushing, and it's like, oh yeah, you just get a brush, put some paint on it, wipe it off on a kitchen towel, and then drag it across the model and get that like chalky look. It's like, yeah, but you can take it even further than that. Like the Artist Opus guys, what they do with dry brushing is, well, it's next level. It's amazing what they can do.
And it's crazy. Like you could just do you can add a little bit of paint to your brush, or like if you're using a sponge, you could just dap at the sponge, then dip the paint in it, and then your dry brush doesn't look nearly as chalky.
Yep.
And then you can do that on normal models, like the flesh of models. But then if you want the chalky look, you can do that on stone and leave it dry as a bone, and you get the effect you want.
That's it. Yeah. It's all those little learning points, isn't it? That like as you paint it over time, build those up and apply all that to painting a model, and it gets faster and easier, and you get the effect you want with less effort.
Yep. So today's episode, and now that we're back from the audio issues, is my mistake. My headset's it literally has a scroller white heel, and like it just turned off all the audio, and I was like, oh, because my hoodie. I was like, this is great. But today's podcast episode is gonna be covering painting as a whole, because we had a little hiccup in the War Machine community where they're like, hey, you have to be painted for IG, and everyone community was like, hang on, that's something. What do you guys think of painting requirements in models and like big tournaments?
Spencer, you can go first if you want.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So I'm in two minds about it. So on one side, painted models are always better than unpainted models.
Mhm.
Like they just are. It's nicer to look at on a table. It gives the sense of people have really put effort into their army, and like it's nice to see that on the tabletop and at events. But on the other hand, it is a big undertaking to paint an army. So if it's going to really stop people from actually attending events, especially for a game that's growing like War Machine, or regrowing, I suppose, maybe. It's it's kind of a barrier to entry that isn't really good. So yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one. I feel like it depends on the level of the event. So above a certain event level, yeah, fine. It's understood that you're going to a big event. You should put the effort into your army. It should be really nice, and it helps the game grow, because then Steamforge or event organizers can take photographs and videos of the event, look at all these amazing armies that are all playing against each other. All these people have put all this effort into their armies, and you can have best painted army competitions, all that kind of thing. It's really good for showing like how nice the game can look and attracting people that way, because grey models on a tabletop aren't particularly attractive. Doesn't really interest anyone. But low level events, there's got to be a cut off somewhere where you say, right, okay, well, anything below this, yeah, you can just play with the models however they are, because you want people to actually play the game.
No, I think I'm pretty much in agreement. Like for the big name event, for all the conventions, like the big conventions we've got over here, like Adepticon's coming up, Nova, there's a couple more larger conventions. I think painting requirements for that makes sense, right? There's going to be a lot of people at the convention. You want people to get into the game. Seeing painted models is, like you said, like it's just better than not painted. But for local game store contests, like I don't anticipate too many GMs enforcing a painted rule. But
yeah, and they did. SFG came out and they clarified the rules. So IG is their Iron Gauntlet qualifier, which is like the peak of the competitive side of War Machine, which is where there's a lot of community in the competitive side, because the games does play very well, and it does play at a very high level if you want it to. But they said SFG run IG qualifiers and other IG qualifiers are where the painting requirement is needed, and it's still just like your average 3-color minimum and a base. So, but I do think it's like
that makes sense, though.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll find any games that.
Yeah, and I think with, like we said about speed paints, contrast paints, that kind of thing, it's hard for me to say it's easy for people to do, because for me that is easy because I'm a painter. So it's like if I take my painter hat off and say, okay, as a normal person, I've got to get a whole army up to this level. Yeah, there is like an investment required into it, but 3 coats and a base, that's pretty easy to do. You can buy a primer, like a grey primer, 3 different contrast paints for your army colors. Like say doing Cador, it's like red, black, skin colors. Like that's it. And
I
then
think it's
like some basic paint.
And I think as more people like get into like the experimenting and like more people are learning how far you can push contrast paints, like your videos, for example, or like the one that I have coming out later is sponge chop is what I'm dubbing it. There's ways to like
I love that.
twist and like make simple changes to your bait, like your priming, like prime black underside, white down, and then do speed paints, and then go in with like a small highlight even. Or the one that I like doing.
And like I don't even think you need to go that deep, right? Like when you look at it, I think back to like my friends who played Imperial Guard in high school, right? Where you're painting 200 models. Like he played infantry Imperial Guard. He hated himself. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
What was his deal? But
it's just, I mean, masochistic, isn't it? Really?
Right? Yeah, and he'd go through and he'd have tan paint, green paint, a wash, and a like either black or metal, and that's what he did for the whole army. And at the end of the day, like I'm sure it took a minute. I mean, he painted like 350 models. An animal.
Former orc player here. I feel the pain.
You're right. But you can. When I look at the scale of War Machine, like your max painting for like your big giant armies, you're painting like 30 models. Right, and at the end of the day, I think that is an attainable goal to have 3 colors in a base.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it.
And I think a lot of people as well, and I think it's like a blessing and a curse, but now that the internet is so like it's so easy to go on the internet and see like amazing looking armies, and people think, oh, army painting, it's got to look to that level, and it really doesn't. Like if you're playing a game, you're like 3-4 feet away from your models most of the time. You're not like getting down and looking at the details, and most of the time you're looking at it from like above or like quite a high up angle. So as long as you can just see those colors of what the thing is, it's going to look really good on the table, even if it's just like painted to a really basic standard. So you don't have to spend like hours and hours per model. You can really quickly, batch paint, speed paints, a few simple highlights here and there, if you really want to, and it'll look good.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something I'm learning as a painter because I used to paint everything to like probably 90%, and then I would burn out and then not paint for so long. And like I painted Orgoth over 2 years. The reason that took so long is because candy is really complicated to paint. I don't know if you've ever painted candy, but the way I do my candy coats it's 6 steps just for the armor.
Yeah, that's quite a lot.
But the beauty of that is that's where the main focus of the army is. So everything else was like a base coat and then a wash, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then that's all I did for like the grunts and the troopers, and like that's how I saved time there. And then on like the HQs and the gargantuan, like the 120 mil is where I put all my effort in. Like your big key pieces, like that's like the ones you want to put all your effort in. And then everything else is like
100%.
It's meant to die in the game. It's not even going to be on the table half the game. Don't put that much time into it. Let it go die and do its purpose in the game. It's a grunt model. Let it go die, and then it dies. You take it off. You don't even have to look at it.
Yeah, exactly. It's meant to be fodder. So why spend any effort on that?
Yeah, like with my dusk today, I'm doing base coats, and then I'm doing like a little bit of feathering highlights, and that's it for most of the stuff. Just to add texture to the model, and then it's one highlight.
Yeah, that sounds good. Oh, that'll look really nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think something you touched on there as well is kind of important. It's like if you really want to like put effort into an army, it's knowing where to put that effort. So like you really don't want to spend loads of time on your troops. You just want to use like as much time as you can on your HQ and your big centerpiece models, because they're the ones that draw your eye. Those are the ones you like that are important and you actually want to play with, not core troops. Who cares about them? Like they're basic troops, aren't they?
No, 100%. 100%.
Well, it's like Ross.
That's been the hardest for me.
Harvester.
Yeah. Like I got the Necro Harvester. He's actually just sitting right up on the ledge. The learning that's been the hardest for me is like it's hard to be like, hey, these are just regular dudes. Let's just put some regular effort into them and pick the ones that matter the most. And then I end up burning out after spending 15 hours on a single model, and then it's like I've got
Yeah.
15 more of these guys to do. Oh no, what have I done?
Yeah.
But
It's something else as well is like burnout is even when you're army painting, it's really easy to like burn out. And I did a video where I had an army box. It was the Mechanicum for Horus Heresy, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to do the whole army. I'm going to batch paint all of it in one go, just try and get through it as quickly as possible. And about like 2 or 3 steps in, I was hating life. It was not fun at all. And part of the video is me saying like, at this point, I hated it, and I was like, either I need to change something, or I'm going to give up on this whole project and just it's going to sit in a box because I just was not having fun. And if you're not having fun, then why do it? Like,
100%.
we're here to have fun. So I just said, right, sack all of it off except for one model. I'm just going to finish this one model, get that done. And I was really happy with that then. And I was like, cool, right, I can do that, and I can go back and do the rest if I want to, like, over time. And I think it's finding what works for you in terms of like that balancing point of like, this is enough models that I can work on at one time, and this is the level I can go to before I have to say, right, that model is done, put it to one side, next model. Getting that like little hit of dopamine of like, oh yeah, I've completed that, I've done it. It's like good, put it to one side, next model, like that completion, like ticked off a list sort of feeling.
Yeah,
it goes a long way to painting an army. And some armies are different to others as well. Like some armies, they've got loads of details. It's going to take ages because of the nature of the models. Some of them are way more simple, and the techniques you can use on simpler models compared to more complicated models, or like if it's, say you've got like a load of armor on models, armor can be a lot like simpler to paint than like loads of individual details like leather straps or skin, furs and stuff like that. So like the more individual things on a model, that's something you've got to consider when you're painting an army, of like trying to find that balancing point of how much detail and time you want to spend on it. Because if you go past that, you'll burn out, and then it's going to sit in a box. You're never going to do it.
100%. Yeah, I really like when I think you brought it up in the video too, where you're talking about like find what works for you, right?
Yeah.
Whether that is batch painting, whether it is focusing on the individual model, and I think that's 100%. Like if you can't have fun doing it, you're gonna hate it, right? And then if you hate it, and I say that with my great pile of shame sitting.
We all have one.
Yeah,
but and I think that's the biggest thing that I'm like personally working on. What's that rhythm actually look like? How do we make sure that like when I'm painting, I'm not gonna be like frustrated at the end and stay happy.
And I don't know.
And it's different for everyone.
Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
A lot of these, like the new Mark IV models, some of them have mountains of detail. I don't know if you've seen some of the Orgoth stuff, but like the Forge Master, he's got his stick, he's got his like little hand up, like this is his main motion, and then he's got like 3 different like wrenches, a screwdriver, a Ryobi power drill. He's got like, and all the pouches. He's got all the pouches and like a bunch of bones and like power packs. He's got tons of detail, and it's like finding that balance of either just not painting it because it's below his waistline, so it's probably going to be in a shadow in real life anyway, or like calling it a base coat and a done.
Yep.
Yeah. It's sort of about that balance, isn't it? And I'm finding techniques that can help you shift that balance in your favor as well. So like, if you've got a bunch of stuff which is, like you say, in shadows, a base coat and a wash, that can probably do. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
You don't have to paint everything for an army, an army model. If you're painting to display level, that's obviously a completely different ball game. But even then, you don't have to paint everything for a model to look amazing. Yeah. It's only the things that you really want to focus on. And you can see it in like some of the top painters. You'll have like a focal point. So say, for example, there's a painter called Mark Masterland, and he's done a Wolverine bust. And obviously the face and all the details in his chest are really like perfectly refined. Everything is like beautifully rendered. And then as it gets further towards the edges of the model, it's less refined, less rendered, because that helps to draw your eye into it. So even at the top level, you don't have to paint everything to make it look really good. And he's won awards with that model, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think I definitely need to work on that for sure.
So that actually leads us into our next point: is what are some of your favorite ways to paint models for competition versus table ready? Like, what do you change? How do you go through? How do you make that decision process?
Yeah, so with it's probably better if I start with like a competition model. So with a competition model, you obviously choosing the model makes a big difference, because obviously you want to choose a model that works in your favor, like that you're going to play to your strengths with. Because if you hate painting skin, there's no point picking a model which is all skin. Like, why would you do that to yourself? You know, if you love painting armor, paint something that's all armor. You know, paint a warjack or a dreadnought or whatever. Like, you pick something that's going to work for you. So even before you even start painting, that decision process is there. Like, what do I want to actually paint on the model? And then it's, as I kind of said, like, it's more about the refinement. So if you're painting something to competition level, you need to paint everything as well as you can to, you know, the degree that you can do it at. And you don't have to be like an award-winning painter to do that. Like, I haven't won like many awards, won a couple of golden demon pins, and like it's about just like taking a model and taking it as far as you can do it in your style. And you might not even have a specific style that you like painting in, but it's just trying to push it to that boundary. So it's like you can still use the same techniques that you use in army painting. So you can still use contrast paints, you can still use washes and everything like that. But it's just like when you get to the highlights or the blending, you're just going to really refine it, spend more time on it, be really careful with it, make sure everything is painted as well as you can possibly paint it. On the flip side, with army painting, you obviously, if you want to paint an army, there's models you have to paint.
Yeah.
So because you need to feel like the army. So you kind of, some of your choices are like made for you, really. Say, for example, with a 2-player starter set for War Machine, obviously the models are what they are. You can't really change them. You can't really you could kit bash them, but you know, they're kind of fixed.
Yeah.
You know,
they're monopose. War Machine's like a
Yeah.
lot of their stuff, like kit bashing does as like much as like weapon swaps a little bit, and it really comes down to like the basing that you can change up a lot.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So there's not like a lot you can really do with them. So you've got to be able to paint the things that are on the model. So then it's a case of looking at the model and thinking, right, okay, well, this has got some leather, so this is a way I like to paint leather really quickly. It could just be like a contrast paint of brown over it, and that'll do. Or if it's metallics, you might want to say, well, I really like painting rusty metallic, so I'm just going to do a metallic and then a rusty wash over it. And it's just picking out those like really simple recipes that you can use across an army. And then it's like a bit of like a stepping stone sort of step that I use when I'm looking at an army. It's like, okay, well, these are the different elements that I've got. What's like the quickest way that I can do all of those in like the least possible steps? So for example, in the orc video that I did, where I started off with like the brown base coat and then the white zenithal, and then used contrast paints over the top. The reason I did the brown base coat and the white zenithal is because then I could use a contrast paint for the skin, a contrast paint for the armor, and it's like reduces those 2 steps down to kind of like 1.5 steps.
Yeah.
And it's like thinking about those like processes that you can use to reduce the number of steps you have to do to make the model look as effectively nice as you can quickly, really.
Yeah. All those little shortcuts you discover.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it takes time. You build up, you know, these recipes just by painting and practicing, watching YouTube videos, you know, tips from people on Discord or online. You know, there's loads of places you can learn these tips, and just trying them out. Until you try them out, you're not going to know how they work out. So yeah, you kind of have just to bite the bullet and go for it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And like picking, and like one thing I'd obviously recommend, do at your own risk. But like every 6 months to a year, like take a model that you really enjoy, or like, and just push it to your absolute limit. See how far you've come in that year, and then you can do that like every year as like a stepping stone. Like, oh, last year I was here, learned all this by practicing because I painted another 100 minis or whatever. And then you take that competition mini in December that you paint to full extent, and it takes you 2 months. But then in February, you can look back and be like, oh, 2024 was a crazy year for me. This is how much I improved.
Yeah, exactly. And even when you're doing army painting, you can still, you know, refine your techniques. So like brush control, that's like one of the biggest things that you need to improve. Everyone needs to improve on, unless you're like, you know, golden demon winner, top painter in the world. Like, everyone needs to improve the brush control. When you're painting, just pay attention to like how paint like performs on a wet palette or out the bottle, looking at dilutions as you're painting it and like taking note of those things so that you know, say for example, you need to paint something in black and you've got a one paint from one brand that if you wore it down a certain amount, it's going to be a bit transparent. Okay, so you're going to need more than one coat of that. You've got a paint from a different brand, another black, but you only have to water it down a little bit and you know the exact dilution and it's one solid coat. That's a whole step that you've noticed as you've been painting things. So when you next paint something in black, you know, oh, okay, well, I'll use that brand rather than this one because it's going to save me loads of time further down the line. It's just like noticing little things and like building up a repertoire of things that can save you time and effort. All that kind of stuff helps, and helps get an army on the table quicker.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when I was painting my Orgoth over 2 years, I'd like if you look at my first Orgoth model I painted versus the last one, the army, you could tell what order I painted them in like the little batches I did, because like each time I painted the candy, it got better. Each time I painted like the blacks, it got better. And it's like, are you one of those people who would go back and repaint the old ones, or would you just leave them as learning steps?
Definitely leave them as learning steps. So I hate like stripping models or like redoing them. And I know there's like a time and a place for it. So like, you know, not everyone wants to like buy new models or to, models aren't cheap either. So it's like, if you really need models to practice on, you can strip old ones and repaint over them. But I hate it. So I'm
in the same boat.
to-
I leave everything as like a learning thing. I don't care how bad it was. I don't care if it messed up. It's like, I learned from that. Here's my next model. I don't have time to go back.
100%. And looking back on it, like I wish I had kept the first Dark Angels that I ever painted. Right, I'm actually really sad that I sold those while I was still in high school, because I can still look at like I've got like a repertoire of models I just pulled off my shelf to look at them while we were painting, and seeing the difference between like first starting painting to a couple years ago to now is it's really cool to look at, because it's hard to see improvement, I think, because we're constantly slightly improving over time. But when you see this is almost oh man, what is it, 2025? 8-9-year-old model, and I'm like, wow, the difference in my painting ability. I'm not you guys. Yeah, I'm not crazy good or anything, but do good enough to put it on the table. But even seeing the difference between 9 years of painting is incredible.
Here's what we'll do. We'll blindfold you, and then we'll have you put the paint on the brush, and then Spencer or I will guide your hand in, talking to you,
there we go.
and it'll be just like you just
That
started.
sounds like a good game.
It's like learning the Force, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just gotta feel it.
Yeah, you have to use the texture of the brush going through your hand to feel where
There
the
we go.
lens actually is.
Yeah.
There we
Get the
go.
feedback from those bristles, just to
It becomes an
oh,
extension
Yeah.
of yourself.
This is the face. This is a nose and an eye.
Yeah, become one with the brush. All I have to do is believe, for sure.
Or if you drink the paint, it actually helps you connect to the model better.
No, been there. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just drink Sprugu. Bit of that.
Oh, there
Wait,
we go.
hang on,
I'm more of a Null Noil
Do
guy.
not do that.
I'm not to be trusted.
I have some very metallic lacquer paint
Oh, there we
we
go.
can mess around with.
Is that the one that when we're
Yeah,
painting
that's
with,
it.
that I'm like, I probably should be wearing a mask, even though I'm
Yes.
just sitting over across the hall?
Yeah. That's,
have you ever messed with lacquer paints
are not,
at all?
Yeah. So I used them on some metallic ones on a Stormcast project that I did a while ago, and I really liked the recipe and I really liked the end result, but just having to use like the smell of them and how much effort they are, I was like,
Wakes you up in the morning.
I don't like this. Yeah. That's
Not a chemical smell kind of guy, huh? That's all right.
I don't mind it too much, but like I paint a lot with like enamels and oils, so I'm kind of used to some of it. But lacquers are
lacquers are a
next
different
level.
breed. That stuff will makes me feel like every time I open the bottle that I'm losing a couple weeks off my life.
It's worth it.
I don't know. I don't know.
they're great paints.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
you've seen my Garlcast, right? Ross, you know this thing.
Yeah.
That was all lacquer. Or not all
Yeah,
lacquer, but the red.
So, right, just what's a little more disability, right?
Yeah, exactly. Here, I'll show you. I don't know if you've seen it, Spen.
You don't need all your brain cells.
The red.
Yeah,
is
come on.
all lacquer red.
Yeah, that is beautiful. That's really nice.
So yeah, that red, it is black primer, gloss black, then gold, and then 2 coats of clear red, and then a pledge gloss coat.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's why
I
the
love it,
varmint
though.
took me 2
It's
years.
really nice. Yeah. Yeah. Wait for it all to dry in between before you go over it and everything.
Oh yeah, because you need at least 24 hours
though.
for it to cure and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's lacquer paints are. I mean, it's like any tool, isn't it? It's got its place in painting if you really want that effect.
Yeah.
But it's another tool to the bow. A tool to the bow. That's not a saying. It's another string to your bow. A tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, I've definitely found like that lacquers do metallics the best, but it's hard to apply, especially with minis. It's so hard to apply lacquer paints in such a smaller, controlled area.
Yeah. I've airbrushed them before, but applying them with a brush,
No,
probably
yeah,
not for me. Yeah, I don't actually really. I kind of dislike brush painting metallics. It's just something I've never really enjoyed doing.
it's hard to get them consistent and even.
Yeah, that's it. The new P3, they're cold steel, and I can't remember the name of the gold, but they're really good. They're really nice metallics.
Whatever you can share about the P3 paints, I'm sure our viewers would appreciate. Like, what's your experience?
In fact,
with
I've
it?
got my my little mobile painting station next to me, and I've even got them right there.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah. So Steamforge sent me like a bunch of them when they were doing the Kickstarter, and I love them. I think they're really nice. So it's really funny because they put a quote from me on the Kickstarter, and it's quite funny because it's like sometimes when you get asked to make a quote for like a company or like for a product, it's a bit like, oh, I can't really think of what to put. But I was like, actually no, I know exactly how to word it. So like P3 paints, they're like, with some paints, I feel like you have to really work to get them to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like the P3 paints, it feels like they're just working with you. It's really nice. I really like them. Yeah. So I didn't have the full set to try out. I had about, I'm trying to think how many it was now, about 30 or so, something like that. And all really nice. They wet blend really well.
Nice.
I know Matt was on the painting phase talking about them before the Kickstarter, and everything he said about them, they're really nice. The colors are really punchy. So really like vibrant and saturated colors, which for people who aren't like massively familiar with paints, so like, how do I describe this well? So some paints, like when you look at them on a palette, they'll have a lot of gray in them. And you can't really tell. Like it's really hard to see it just from looking at one paint. But if you put like a really punchy, vibrant color next to it, which has which is really pigment dense, you'll be able to see like the difference between the two. And colors which are really like pigment dense, it means that you can get like a bit more control over the colors, because you can, if you've got the color there, you can desaturate it if you want to, but it's very hard to saturate a color. You can't really do that. Like it doesn't really work. But the P3 paint's really nice, and I think I want to try out the rest of the range really. There's like a bunch of colors in there that look really nice, and yeah, obviously like the classic pots are just really cool as well. So
yeah, I still got a couple of the old P3 paint.
I have an entire rack of the original P3 line.
Nice.
I backed the Kickstarter to get the starter set and the irregulars because I really was curious about the irregulars because the pearlescent paints.
Yeah.
I love weird paints. Weird paints is like my painting thing. So I really want to try those out for sure.
Like I think that's one of the fun parts of the hobby, isn't it? Like trying out different products and stuff that works really well. Because until you try it, you don't know what it's going to be like, and it's fun.
100%.
So you've used AK, I see in your channel, and you used Pro Acryl. Where do you stack P3 as like either a different tool, or where do you use it over other brands, or where might you use it?
So in terms of acrylics, I think they're on a par with. So AK are my favorite acrylics, and I really like them because they're really matte. But I would say that P3 paints, they're on a par in terms of quality, but their properties are slightly different. So P3 paints are really good for wet blending, and like if you're just like mixing colors together, they seem to go really well. AK do that as well, but they're really, really matte, like very, very matte. So they're not always the easiest to use in that regard. But the finish on them is really nice. So just different tools for different jobs, really. AK and P3, I'd say, are the two favorite brands that are used. But I use all brands really. It's just finding the right tool, like Citadel paints or Army Painter or Monument. They're all good, just in different ways.
Yeah, no, I'm huge on the Pro-Acryl stuff. I wanted to try AK, but AK is kind of hard to find in the States, it seems. Like the acrylic lines, hard to find in the States. But for me, Pro-Acryl is super easy. And then like my local shop carries the Fanatic stuff. So like I kind of use those two interchangeably, and those have been really good for me. Pro-Acryl has that ultra matte. It's not, I don't know, I haven't used OK, but they have that matte finish to them, and I really enjoy. And then I do like how, for me, like Pro-Acryl, if I need a color that like I have this gray and I'm like, I kind of want to make this other color, and like I can visualize it, that I'm like, oh, I need to add caramel brown to it. They have a color called caramel brown, not like under the butt satchel brown of an orc. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what color that is.
What do you mean? I love all those goofy names. I mean, I used to be a big Citadel fanboy. Like that was the only paints I would use, and then recently have kind of moved to more. I still use Citadel. Like it's not like off the shelf for me, but now it's more Pro-Kill or Pro Krill, and
they're a hard brand to name, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't talk so good.
Words are hard. Words are hard.
Yeah, it's educated in the South, you know. So.
I was educated in England, so.
Yeah, well, isn't that supposed to make you all proper? I think it's probably better, right? I don't know, man. Have you seen the Texas education system?
I haven't. I've seen you though, so that explains a lot.
Yeah, doesn't it? Shit.
But yeah, that's what I was curious where P3 fit into the toolbox, because I know they're gonna be as good as every other paint nowadays, like in terms of just like general use case. But like they're definitely gonna be a different. Like, hey, I want to do this thing. Use this paint over this paint.
Yeah,
that's gonna be fun. You're gonna have to teach me wet blend.
Have you used P3 through the airbrush yet?
I have. Yeah, it goes really nice. Yeah, pretty good.
Is it usually like 50-50 ratio, like most things, or what are you using to thin?
Yeah. So, funnily enough, I actually have been using airbrush cleaner to thin because I ran out of thinner, and I had airbrush cleaner, and I thought I'll just give it a go and see what it's like, and it's fine. It works perfectly fine. So if you ever run out of thinner, use airbrush cleaner and you're fine. But yeah, about 50-50. So usually what I'll do is if I'm going to airbrush a color, I'll put a couple of drops into the airbrush of the cleaner or whatever you're diluting first. Then put a couple of drops of the paint, or if it's a Citadel, like one. I don't really know, like
one brush,
one scoopish off. Yeah, like it's hard to quantify. Yeah. Mix that into the hopper. You can usually tell like how it runs on the down the sides inside the hopper, like how if you've got it too diluted or not diluted enough, and then kind of go from there. And then like quick spray on the glove, because that's always a really good way of testing out like how diluted it is and how it's going to come out. But yeah, usually about 50-50 is good for most paints. Depends on like how you're spraying it as well. So if you're like want a really super thin, like you're glazing with it, then you're gonna need it like way more watered down, drop the pressure down, really fine finger control.
I found so what I usually do is I do, like if I'm doing normal Pro-Acryl paints, I just do flow. I do a couple of drops of flow improver, equal parts paint, and then like half a drop of water, and then I mix that.
Oh yeah, yep.
And then I've been, since my Dusk army is entirely painted with fluorescent paints from Pro-Acryl, 1 drop of flow improver and then like 6 drops of paint.
And those come out super.
They're super thin, and like I don't know what it is, but I'm spraying at the same PSI, which is 25, and like painting like 10 models. I used half a bottle of paint.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Fluorescent paint's really weird. It's like and it's the same for pretty much every brand I've found. It's like terrible coverage, and you have to use a lot of paint to get like 1 coat on the model. Yeah. It's really, really weird.
So do the yellow.
And that's the same across the board.
Yeah, you need the bright white underneath. So my Zenithal was with gray instead of black, and then I did bright white on top. And then I did 2 coats of the yellow, like not barely thinned at all, just enough to like make it actually flow through the airbrush. and then you can get proper coverage.
Yeah, that sounds right. Have you tried the enamel fluorescents? Because those are pretty cool.
I have a few of them for Gundams because I use them for panel liners.
Oh, okay.
So like
That's
on
great
on
idea.
like the cool like weapon effects, I'll do the UV inside the gun, so the gun's
Nice.
glowing. Yeah.
Yeah. They really pop when they dry, but they're a bit like deceiving because when you put them on, like yeah, that doesn't like it's enough paint, and then like it dries and it's bright.
Yeah. The
Oh, yeah.
the Army Painter plasma coil speed paint, not the speed paint, the effect paint is similar to that. It's the only blue fluorescent that's not, well, Green Stuff World has blue fluorescent, but Green Stuff World here in the States is impossible to get.
Yeah, they've got like a bit of a weird reputation as well, Green Stuff World, for like ripping off other companies. So it's not like I'm never really one to like bash a company because I don't really know like the ins and outs of how companies, every company works.
Yeah.
But yeah, when a company's got a bit of like a weird reputation for something like that, it's a bit like it's hard to recommend them even if they do like really good products, because they do some really good products. But it's just a bit like it's one of those things where I don't know if it's
hard to recommend.
Yeah, you feel a bit weird doing it because it's a bit like, oh, should I be like warning people about it, or I don't really know enough about the situation, so do I just not recommend the product? But then it's a really good product, so do I want people to be able to get the best products out there? It's a bit of like a catch-22 situation, really.
Yeah, but they have a blue fluorescent, Army Painter does, that I've been using. I'll do like my bright blues, and I put the fluorescent over it because it looks like it's clear almost, and then when you put it on there and hit it with a UV light, it's like neon blue. It's fantastic.
Yeah, nice.
The Fnatic line's been pretty good to me so far, out of the stuff I've been testing with.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things as well that people get really caught up on like specific brands, don't they? Like that, like some people bash Army Painter, some people bash Citadel, some people bash AK, some people bash whoever, but I think anyone who spends enough time painting and like playing around with any particular brand of paint can learn to use that brand really well and get like great finishes with them. But it's just getting that familiarity with it and like what is available to you. So like you said, obviously AK is really hard for you to get. So for you, AK is rubbish.
Yeah,
because you can't get it.
Yeah,
no good having a paint range that you can't actually get hold of.
and I would say nowadays, like every paint range, like the ones that everyone buys from, is all within 1 or 2 points of being the same level of quality. That like if one's more easy for you to get, you should just buy that and you'll be fine.
Yep. Like if you've got a good stockist nearby that you can regularly get hold of the same paints all the time, so you can practice with those paints and learn to use those paints, that's the one you should go with.
Yeah, or like hey, I forgot to buy this one gray, I can go 10 minutes down the street and buy that gray I need instead of waiting 2 weeks for it to arrive online. Yeah,
exactly. Like brand loyalty is cool, but at the same time, having like readily available paints that you can actually paint your models is cooler.
Yeah.
Yes.
And brand loyalty will only get you so far because you're gonna like this one brand, and then they're gonna like have a weird thing, and then like it's like, oh, do you just not support your own brand now? Because like they did the weird thing, and then you either have to sell your entire paint line. It's like just buy what works.
Yeah, use what works.
Exactly,
I don't think I have like 5 or 6 different brands of paint in the
your paint
in the
box
workshop.
Gives me like anxiety though, because it's so.
What do you mean?
Scattered.
I'll go grab it. Yeah, hold on. Let me go grab my paint box.
Like he brought this over to
show you what I'm
we were
dealing
painting
with.
the cricks. He's in charge of cricks, and he just drops this box on me, and like bottles are sideways. There's different brands all my everywhere. Paints. It's not organized, and I'm like, what is this?
So we've been so we're having our first baby in April, and
congratulations. Yes. That's awesome.
It's going to be amazing. It's terrifying, but it is amazing. And we have been this weekend emptying out our hobby room to turn it into a nursery, and the amount of paints that were in there is it's pretty bonkers. Like I'm going to put this in the chat in the Discord that we're in, and this is like a couple of our little trays of paints.
Just a couple.
That was yeah.
For example, anybody who knows those really useful boxes that people have and put armies in, he has like 70 of these, and they're all full of paints.
Yeah, they're raw.
We've got a lot of paints.
Yeah. I can attest to having lots of paints.
It's one of those things, isn't it? Like you just need another grey.
You do.
Because the one you've got is either like too purple or too blue or too green. And you just need one's like slightly different
like
shade.
one's warmer, one's colder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you've got contrast paints. And then you've got speed paints.
Yeah, because speed paints and contrast paints, you need a whole other line of the exact same colors because they act differently.
Yeah, you just got to keep them in a box.
Oh my
like
God.
this one.
That's
Look at that.
Mate,
I got my magnets. You never know when you need magnets. I got glue in here. I got some extra brushes. I got a base. I got all the different.
You never know when you're going to need to
paints.
base something.
Yeah, if you got if you need a base, I've got one.
Do you have cork in there too?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a little piece of cork in here, a couple pieces. Yeah, I got it. If you need it, I've got it. This is the one-stop shop.
It's quite an impressive array of stuff in that little box.
Yeah, it's a manic. It's definitely a little manic, but that's all right. Never hurt nobody.
It's a grab bag of like, I'm going away. I need all the stuff I need to hobby. I'm just gonna grab that one box and
exactly. And that's how it works. Because I never know if I'm going to be painting at my house, at Taylor's house. I just grab the two manic boxes and go.
Every time he comes over, he manages to forget.
I forget one of the paints I need every time, consistently.
That's a classic. Yeah. And then you got to go to the shop and buy it because the shop's closer. And you can.
Well, luckily, I know a guy who may or may not have 2 to 3 different paint ranges. And so when I'm painting at that guy's house, he typically has what I need.
Yeah, he's. Oh, I forgot this orange. Okay, which orange would you like? I have it.
Oranges are a funny paint, aren't they? They're like those weird colors that try to paint, and it's just none of them work that great.
Yeah, orange and yellow have been the two hardest paints for me to actually get figured out. Shout out to speed paints and contrast paints; those have made it way better. But orange and yellow for the olden days, oh my gosh, good luck.
Yeah,
if you painted a yellow army, I was like, all right, you're the best, you're cool.
I am really not excited for my Gravediggers because I'm doing a '90s theme. So I'm doing like sunburst yellow Citadel and like snakebite leather and like enchanted blue colors, like the goblin green base. But like to do that is you prime white and then you do like 30 layers of yellow, 2 layers of blue to get solid coverage, and it's like everything's just going to take time.
Yeah. I really recommend using the Imperial Fist yellow contrast paint. That's really nice. Or you try yellow ink. So inks are
a thing I'm just now getting into, and they are sweet.
Yeah, shout out to inks. Inks rock.
Yeah, they're interesting. They've got their place. They're a bit of a weird one because they're like inks. There's so many different properties for inks, and it's like knowing what you're going to get out of the box is pretty tricky.
And then knowing when to alter the base formula and like thin it down or do whatever you need to do to it for that use case.
Yeah. So inks are a good way that you can actually add saturation back into a paint that's quite desaturated, because obviously they're super saturated. So you can use if you've got like a desaturated red or like a red that's a bit grey, you can add a bit of like a red ink back in and mix those together, and you get like a much more punchy red.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. But yeah, kind of get into the new thing. So you've got the new 2-player battle box.
I do.
Yeah,
I do indeed.
Yeah. How do you like it? What colors are you gonna paint it? What are your pros and cons?
Sure. So I like it a lot. I think it's really good. I think the idea behind like a 2-player battle box is really good. I think it's something that I think War Machine is like really a benefit War Machine, because I think probably like my biggest criticism of it at the moment is like it's hard to know where to start. So like before the 2-player starter set, and obviously before this box, it's like isn't like a really clear, obvious like this is your starting point. So like having a 2-player start like battle box, it's like, okay, well, you buy this box, you can split it with a friend, or you can buy it and you've got 2 different armies yourself. It's a really good idea as like a product. The models are so good. They're really, really nice models. It's like obviously the second box that they've done in plastic, in Hips plastic. The models that were in the first box, they're really nice, like really, really good quality, but the plastic was kind of like it's like a little bit too hard, like a bit too dense.
Okay. Whereas
the plastic in this box is very similar to like Games Workshop plastic, for example. So everyone will be familiar with what I mean by that. really nice to work with. Super easy to clean up. I think there is a lot of bits to the models.
I was gonna say, how many parts are there? Because like when I built my first 2-player box, Vilcool, the cattle caster, she was like 21 parts by herself.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of bits. So, the leader for the I don't know how to pronounce it, but the Wormkin guys, the mechanical worm guys, Chimera, right? So the leader of them is like 17 pieces, and it's like it's quite a lot. It's not too bad, but it's a lot of pieces for one model. Yeah. And it's like some pieces where the cleanup is on them, like where the gates are on the model, it's like they do make it a bit tricky to try and clean up really easily. So like, say you've got a model which has got like a bit of a U-shape cut out in it, and like the gate is inside that U-shape. So it's like trying to get your knife down to scoop out a bit of like sprue out of it. It's kind of a pain. On the whole though, the models are really, really nice and easy to build. Like I built them without any instructions, so like they're pretty easy to go together. Once they're built as well, they look absolutely amazing. I love them.
Yeah, they
really,
look
really nice.
Really real good.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like the box, you don't actually. So if you get the 2 armies in the box, but like you don't get anything else in there. So like 2 armies in the bases, and then all the rules will be via you scan a QR code that's on the box, and that'll take you to the rules.
Yeah, so we had the first 2-player box was sweet. I built them. The instructions weren't ready for the 2-player box when I got mine, so I built them without instructions, and I was like, "This is interesting."
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
I also didn't know that they're numbered, so I was just like cutting everything off and then sorting. So I was doing it on hard mode.
Oh,
yeah,
that is hard mode.
So that's funny.
I like would cut out a few pieces that I knew were part of like Vilcool, and I would look at the sprue and be like, "Where's the rest of them?" And then I would cut more out, and then I would assemble it. But I didn't know there was numbers to it. But like now that I know there's numbers, way easier.
Yeah, so it's like letters and numbers. So like you have each model is a letter, and then each there's like it's all numbered in parts. So this is quite a funny story. So it comes inside the box. It's like 2 stacks of sprues, and each stack is inside like a bag, like a sealed bag, like a sandwich bag or something. And there's 2 of them. So I thought, oh, 1 for each army.
Yeah.
Like equal number of sprues. I don't know why I thought that, but I did. So I thought, all right, okay, I'm going to do the Chimera first. Got them all out, started building them all. And I got to the end of like building them, and I was like, I've got an extra base. And I looked at the box and I was like, I need 7 models. I've got 6 models. Like, where's one gone? Like, has the dog eaten it? Because like he's eaten models before. Like, have I misplaced it? Have I like knocked it off something? Like, is it down the back of the sofa? Like, I was literally searching the house, speaking to my wife, like, have you seen this model anywhere? Like, am I going mad? Like, I've done like getting all the sprues out, looking through all the parts on the sprue. Like, there's not enough parts here for a model. Like, looking through, counting. I'm like, oh my god, where is it all? And yeah, it's just in the other bag, and I was just like being an idiot. But yeah, literally like a whole probably 3-4 hours of panic. Like,
Nice.
I've lost this model. Where's it gone? Yeah, it's just there chilling, waiting to be built.
I feel that dog one. The my puppy ate when we first got him. He broke into the office and ate like half of my Tau army. It just chewed up the tanks, ate up like 30 fire warriors, and like came in and it looked like a massacre. It's like
I
yeah.
mean, that's what Tau get, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Punishment fits the crime, right?
You were the one who bought Tau. The dog was doing you a favor.
Yeah, no, I'm the worst. I bought Tau in the shooting edition. Like 7th edition was big shooting edition, if I remember correctly. It was either 7th or 8th. And so Tau was ridiculously good, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to get into Tau. So my buddy kept kicking my butt while he's playing Chaos. Never.
To be fair, the Tau models are really cool. I really like Tau models. I don't really like I've read like a few of the books, or listened to them. I listen to a lot of audiobooks rather than reading them.
Yeah.
And like the lore's okay, but the models are pretty cool. Like the battlesuits are ace. Like, really, really cool models.
Yeah, I love the battlesuits. I mean, I still got my Storm Surge that my wife bought me. Like,
nice.
It's one of my I'll keep it forever models. Yeah, it was a good time.
No, Tower cool. I can't say that too loudly, but Tower cool.
Yeah, keep it down.
Yeah. What's next? You gonna tell us you're a Nickelback fan, dude?
Dude, You ever heard Nickelback while at the gym? Nothing hits better.
Nothing hits better than Nickelback at the bar on a Wednesday night. You know,
Yeah,
it's like the only time they'll play it. So
yeah. It's
Like
like
all the
listening
other
to
Force
Creed
Dads.
at the right time. It's nothing beats it.
Yeah, it's got its time and place, doesn't it? Everyone loves Nickelback, really. It's just cool to hate on them.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what it really
there
comes
it
down
is.
to.
Yeah, everyone actually loves them, but it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
There's no one secure enough to like say that they actually do like them.
Yeah.
We used to we had a guy who could do like a really good Creed like accent, like he could mimic Creed's voice. And so I used to work on like flight line, and you can't have your phones or anything, so you got to make all your own fun. He would just sing Creed for us in the truck, and he had the voice for it. So yeah, that's what we used to do for fun. It was a good time.
Nice.
Hey, you gotta find it where you can.
Yeah, right.
So for your go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of 2-player battle boxes, what have you picked out your color palette yet, or you still kind of thinking?
I'm still thinking a bit. It's going to be lots of metal, very rusty.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's kind of my like the style I like painting the most. Really, it's like really rusty metal, like really like.
And so you do a
lots
really
of
good
rust
job at it.
grime.
That's for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, it's really fun. So I'm thinking of going down that route because obviously they are like completely mechanized. Like there's not much other than metal on them, so that's kind of cool. Which is why I built that side first because I thought, oh, I can get them built and painted first and quicker.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm thinking maybe I'll add some like stripes on there, but I'm not kind of sure what stripes. Maybe I'll do some hazard stripes or something. Like really make them different.
A little Iron Warrior action going?
Maybe.
Ooh.
Maybe.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, could be fun because it's not that hard to do like hazard stripes either. Like if you just use some masking, it's pretty simple. So yeah, that's an option. And then the other side for the Foul Bloods, I think I might just do them like similar to the box art, just like similar colors, but more grimy, more grubby, more weathering. Like lots of mud on them, that kind of thing.
But yeah, I'm a huge fan of the like battle look. That's my favorite look when I paint models. 100%.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like having like a parade army. I like to think all my dudes have been fighting for eternity. And when you fight for eternity, I imagine you get a little you get a little rusty, you get a little gruddy,
maybe
just a little dirty.
If you're good at it, you never take any damage.
Well, I don't win a lot, so it figures that my dudes are a little dirty.
It's a good argument. You can't go wrong with that. Like that.
Yeah, we were thinking about colors.
It's a fun way of painting.
And like mine's very contrasted to that. Like I'm thinking like Japanese, like grays and pink, like a Sakura kind of theme for the Chimera, because they're ninjas. They're like cyber ninja warriors. And then for the trolls, we were gonna do like this red.
Like I want to do red skin. So I've never really been good at skin, so I think this will be fun. And we're thinking about doing the like cartoony, where you get like the Borderlands,
the cell shading,
like art style, the cell shading. And then I'll probably switch them out from red coats to they'll probably be more French looking with the blue coats instead, because otherwise it'll be red on red. So
yeah, wouldn't show much.
Yeah, that's the battle plan. We'll see how it plays.
Yeah.
Or depending on how time crunched we are, I may teach Ross sponge chop, which for everybody who doesn't know what sponge chop is, now I'm going to explain it. It's you do a black and white zenithal like normal, and then let's just say your color palette's like you're doing gray. So you pick your dark gray and you use a sponge and you put it in the dark areas, and then you do, but it's like slightly, and it's supposed to be a little bit brighter than your speed paint. Then you speed paint the whole thing the gray you want, so it covers up the white and the black. So you have like basically double shadows because you get the texture from the base layer of the sponge, and then you get the speed paint like tinting of the whole model, and then you go through and do sponge on top of the speed paint, and then that's where you get your texture from the sponge and then the highlights.
I like it.
Yeah,
you put your sponge chop up, didn't you?
I will post it real quick. Where did I put it?
Yeah, I was gonna say I know you have it somewhere.
Let me post it. I took a picture of it. I just finished this model. This actually was like under 2 hours worth of work.
I really like the ones you did for the Signar, or you did it on the Khador and Signar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's sick.
Yeah, and that's my Khador.
That's really nice. Yeah. That's
he did the solo cup. like 90s synthwave. Yeah, it looked really, really good.
Love it. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I love painting weird
Nice.
things. That's my thing. That's what I've learned is like I think I really like the texture that sponge has, and I think that's becoming like my new favorite like technique right now. It sucks that I
definitely.
found it after I base coated my dusk. Because I was like, oh well, okay, I'm stuck into this now.
Well, that just means you've got to go back and paint another lot of them.
Oh god,
Yep,
no.
yeah, that'll do
That's
it. You got to
Yeah,
do
okay.
2 Dusk Armies, Taylor.
No,
Yeah.
what I will do is if whenever Rule Guard comes out, because that'll probably be my next army, I'm gonna paint the leader and their big stuff marble, like a green marble with like some lacquer paints. And that'll be like what the whole army is supposed to look like. And then the rest of the army will be like sponge chopped and sponged and just keep it simple and quick.
Nice.
So that way I can
That's
still
what
show
I
off
guess-
that I can know how to paint marble effects, but I will just do the rest of the army in a timely fashion.
Good plan. Yeah. Marbling is like, it's fine, but it is a bit time consuming for like an army.
Armies.
Oh
like,
yeah.
They take and like after
That's
doing-
Taylor's favorite though. He
Don't-
says
shut up.
candy for an entire army. I'm on it. Marble for the whole army. I'm here for it.
Never again, man. Never. Oh.
He said his next army is gonna be painted with a one bristle brush. The whole thing. It's gonna be a billion highlights.
I do hate myself, but not that much. Come on now.
And it's going to be all made up of freehand.
Yeah, it's all every model. It's like
Oh, do you
Leonardo.
know there's the flame. You know,
One of
Flameon
those,
miniatures, yeah.
No, what?
Have you seen Flameon miniatures?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
His stuff
Yeah,
is
he's amazing.
yeah. Like I was like, man, I want to try that, but like you really have to try that on one mini. There's like that's he like does
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what you need to do. There you go. Yeah, it just looks like
It's,
real life.
mega hard.
That's insane.
he's so
Yeah,
good.
Like his blends are just like
Perfect.
perfect. And it's like his light placement. It's really hard to understand how to place light like he does.
Yeah.
It's next level.
His
Yeah,
chrome
he's-
effect
he's
too, I
really
thought
good.
was bonkers.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
looking at his chrome, like a
Yeah.
little short of him doing the chrome. Like you can see the desert in the background of the chrome. Like
That's not fair.
insane.
He's so good.
He's
insane.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Oh, that's
100%.
fantastic.
I don't know if you'll skip to it, but he did this like giant like freehand cloak where he painted the threads.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that the Night Lords guy?
Probably.
Uh,
It was.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
thought it was a good guy. It was like a space marine with a space marine
No,
terminator.
he also did that to He also did it to a Night Lord, which is absolute.
Yeah, he's something else. Yeah.
He is. He
like
is wild.
there's so many. I think that's one of the things that's hard for people when like they're getting into painting now is they look on Instagram. They're like, oh, I'm just gonna look at like how people paint stuff. And obviously, if you type in like Warhammer models on Instagram,
Yeah.
you're gonna come up with like people who've won Golden Demons and who have won Slayer Swords and everything, and you're just like,
People's whose
they've done that
job
Yeah, I don't-
tiny
in
little model.
life
How
is
am I supposed to
dedicated
do
to this.
Yeah.
And that's where then this is where I get to like I'm okay with no painting requirements because I understand people have lives.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's got to be a balance of, what's actually feasible for people.
hmm
Like 3 colors in a base, I feel like that's okay. Anything more than that, like,
Yeah, I
it's
think
just
and also
I think so.
the biggest thing that I've been like trying to like put in people's heads, I'm like, grunt models can be crappy looking. That's been like the biggest time
Yeah.
sake for me. And like with the sponge technique, like I can't get a sponge behind that shield. So you know what color it is behind that
No.
shield? Black.
Yeah, that
And
was
who's
the
going to look
hardest.
behind a shield?
Exactly. This is
Right.
not a competition mini.
Right.
This is not. I'm not entering this into Golden Demon because if I was, I would have painted the shield off the body.
Yeah, that's it. It's your approach would be completely different if you were doing that. This is a model that you're going to be playing games with,
Mhm.
and it looks great. Like you look at that model, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, it draws the
And if
attention.
you look at that model from 4 feet away, it's going to look amazing.
Yeah.
If you looked at a Golden Demon model from 4 feet away, it'd still look as amazing, but you wouldn't be able to tell the difference that much, because
Right.
you can't see the detail. So, like,
Well, Yeah.
no,
That, and I think social media, just like everything in social media, right? We talk about it in life, when you look at social media, right? Nobody posts. You can look at social media and look at somebody else's life and go, "Hey, their life's fantastic. Their life's insane. Why isn't my life like that?" But nobody posts the steps it took to get there, or the sides that aren't as super awesome, right? And so I don't think painting should be any different. I think that when we look at the Instagram, we look at YouTube, we look at all these fantastic, incredible painters, and we're like, "This is fantastic," right? I might not be there yet. I mean, Lord knows I'm not there yet. And that's okay, right? Like, there's no need to. This isn't a game of comparison, For I'd say probably 80 to 90% of folks, you're not out there trying to win Golden Demon awards, or you just want to have cool models to put on the table. And I think that's
I would say
more than
that percentage
acceptable.
is even like that's a low percent. I think like 99% of people who enjoy tabletop, board games or games with models, they're not trying to win any competitions or anything with them. Most people probably don't even finish painting them. Like they just have them at home, because like if you're on the internet looking at something, you're already like way above the average person who does something usually, because the average person doesn't. They just grab a box of models, like a starter set or something, play it on the kitchen table once or twice, goes in a box, and that's like a lot of people do that. Yeah. And as soon as you go online and look at something, it's like you're already seeing like a higher up percentage of people than the average. Like,
take that. Another good example of this is like the gym life, because me and Maras are gym buddies. But like when we look at Instagram, all I follow are people who are way stronger than me and way bigger than me, and way
Ronnie Coleman, Arnold.
Like, to me, I feel weak, small, and frail. But then when I put my numbers against the rest of the world, I'm like, oh, I'm doing okay. But then I remind myself, I'm not Ronnie Coleman. I'm basically the worst person ever. It's like this forever like battle of mental struggle. Like, oh, I can't bench 600 pounds. I'm weak. Oh no.
Yep. I can't paint non-metallic. I can't paint non-metallic metals. Like, I might as well quit.
Yeah.
Exactly. You put it in a good way. It's like, as soon as you look up how to be a better painter, you are doing more than most people are.
Then a vast majority.
How to paint, like Googling how to paint OSL is like not saying you're better than other people, but you are more invested into that realm than other people are.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be crazy, right? Like, be proud of the models you paint no matter where you're at, because like it's so cool to look back years ago and look at those models that I painted a long time ago and go, wow, this is really cool to see that improvement. And like, I don't know. My recommendation for people would be definitely keep onesie, twosies. You don't have to keep them all. Like, I get having a billion armies would get hard to keep track of eventually, but keep something from everything you paint. And that way you can look back on it.
Yeah,
it's cool to see.
Yeah, that's definitely why I say don't repaint things. Just learn from it, because it's not like whatever you painted before can't meet the 3-paint standard or whatever you're trying to do.
Come on. You can pretty much get away with anything in a 3-paint.
Yeah, and then you always have something to like, oh, this was the first model I painted this army. This was the last model I painted the army, and then like there's your literal representation of how far you improved within just one army.
Oh yeah. Like
it's important.
The day I put down that bottle of Nuln oil was the day that everything started to really start figuring itself out,
Yeah. You drink it instead of using it. Good call.
Yeah, I mean, if you saw that town model, I mean, there's probably a good quarter of a tub of Nuln oil on that bad boy.
So, that's a thing. I don't know if you've ever messed around with doing it, but I've been trying to paint without washes at all. Like just literally start with a darker color and just highlight it up.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So I did a model, like a Trench Crusade model recently for like a display piece. I don't know if you're familiar with them at all, but it's like called the Observer. It's just a guy like just wearing armor, he's got a helmet on, he's got like a spear, and pretty much the same.
One of my favorite models of that line.
So good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like that was the model that I was like, Trench Crusade. Trench Crusade is pretty cool. Like that from that model, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. So when I got that, I was like, I want to really take my time and like do all the proper techniques. So I did a zenithal to get the light placement on it, and then like the armor, I just started off with a dark base and then just worked up through the highlights rather than like do a base coat, do a wash, and all that kind of thing. And it was like it's an interesting, like, fun way of doing it, because it's makes you think differently about like the way you're going to paint it. It also makes you think about like where you're going to put your highlights, because it's really easy to leave too much of the previous layer showing, or not enough. And it's like, it makes you think a bit better about like, okay, if I need to be high contrast, I need to be able to show like this much of the first layer, then this much of the second layer, then this much. So it's like, it's a fun little like practice to do, to get that into your head of like where to place the highlights and how much to place them.
It also helps you. It helped me at least, like not over highlight, because I know I've seen it and I've done it before, having a tendency to over highlight to add dramatic contrast. But if you have no wash to knock it down, you can't
Yeah.
over highlight, because once you over highlight, you have to just paint back with the last layer.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a fun way of doing it. And some people, that's how they paint. That's just like their way of painting everything.
I mean, washes are great. I'm not saying don't use them, because I just used them on model today, but like they're effective and they have their place. But it's definitely like, try a few models without it and just see what happens.
Yeah. Got to try these things out. Like, try the techniques out, see how they go, learn from them. It might not be for you, but if it is, then you've learned something new and that you can use on further models down the line.
Exactly.
Even if it's not, you learned something new, and that's ultimately the goal, right? You're always improving if you're always learning.
Yeah, exactly.
We have one final question. What is your model that you are most proud of painting? Like if you picked it, like this is like when you show a random stranger on the street, like I painted this, what do you show them?
Maybe not even the one you show them, but just the one that makes you the most.
Oh, that is that's a tricky one. So I'd say there's probably two.
Okay.
So one of them is it's a dreadnought that I painted. Did it for Golden Demon when they had Warhammer Fest here in the UK, 2023, I think it was. Yeah, I think that sounds about right anyway. But so I did it for that, and I got a pin for it, and it's probably the model that like it turned out the most how I wanted it to, and I could still see room for improvement in it, but I was still happy with it, which is a really weird thing for it to be like one of my proudest models, because like I can see, I knew at the time like, oh, I could spend more time doing this bit or this bit. Like its claws, it's got like some, I don't really know what they are, but like some cylinder things on the back of the claws, and like I didn't really spend enough time on those, but I should have done. But like I was still proud of the model, how it did. And I got a pin for it at Golden Demon, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's probably the first one. Really enjoyed doing it as well. It's quite a fun one to do. And the second one is last year in, I think it's like late November or early December. Andy Wardle from Court of Paint like messaged me and said, "Oh, do you want to paint one of our models for our Kickstarters coming up?" And I was like, yes, 100% yes. Like,
no, those models are awesome.
Yeah, they're super cool. So I was like, yeah, like definitely 100% on board before I even knew which model it was. And then he was like, oh, so we've got this bust or we've got this full figure. And the full figure was like one of the characters. So like the Kickstarter was like these bunch of different elves in different like situations. So like they're really beautiful models. The Kickstarter is called Dare Guard 2. It's closed now, unfortunately, so like kind of sucks. But
I'm sure they'll have laybackers and stuff a way to get them.
Yeah. I think that's opening soon. I think so. Yeah, I'm sure. Like next few weeks, I think. But yeah, they're like beautiful elf models, and the one that they sent me was like it's like my favorite one out of all the whole set anyway. So I was like, yes, this is amazing. And I really wanted to do it justice, and like made a really cool base with it, it's like kind of like a jungly like vibe to the elf. So I made like a mangrove swampy type base with a big resin pour in it that went really well. On a big like display plinth, and had it built up, and it's just like one of those models where it's really cool to be asked to paint something for them. And then when I was painting it, I was like, I had like a vision of how I wanted it to come out, and it came out like fairly close to that, and I was really happy with like all the work I'd done on it. Especially because it is a model where it's like there's a lot of skin on show, and that isn't something that I paint a lot of. So it was really nice to paint something that was outside my comfort zone for something that was like quite an important project.
Yeah,
and it to turn out really well. I was like, just like really, really felt good for it to come out how I wanted it to.
No, that's an awesome opportunity. And like I followed that Kickstarter and I follow Cold of Paint and they have those models were fantastic. I saw all the different paintings and I was like, these are such cool models.
Yeah, they're amazing. And something else that's like really cool with it is like the people who they asked to paint them are like some of like my like heroes of in painting. Like they're some of like the best painters in the world. So like to have my model, on the Kickstarter page with like their other models, it's
That's
like
really cool.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It's really, really cool. It's kind of like one of those like hobby career highlights.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is sweet, dude.
Yeah. And like the models themselves also like really, really good casts, like so good
They're
quality.
impressive.
And it's like, yeah, really nice.
Yeah, those I'm looking at the Kickstarter right now. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Those models are incredible.
Yeah.
Like really well done.
I mean, like Andy he's such a nice guy, and he is an unbelievable painter. Like, yeah.
Their videos
He's-
are really good about teaching a theory on a color.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
and then
They're-
you don't have to follow their tutorial exactly, but like learning their thought process behind that color or whatever topic they're on that day is like probably the most important thing, is taking that thought process and implementing it with whatever paint brand, paint color that you want. And then that's the real lesson that you could take away from them.
Yeah. Well, they're a really good YouTube channel as well to follow for both competition and army painting, because they do like both sides of it. I think most of the army painting is on their Patreon, but they do have some on their YouTube. But
They've been doing
it's
more
really nice
on the channel.
Yeah. And it's nice that they cover both sides of it. It gives you a good, like, it's good to be able to see both sides of it and then take the lesson. You can like notice the lessons that they teach you in the army painting, or rather in the competition painting, that translate over to the army painting, and where you can like use those techniques to really boost your army painting up. It's really good.
Yeah,
Oh,
they just got into. They were doing some Infinity stuff, and Infinity is a lower model count, so
Yeah.
they could push those models a little bit, and like seeing how they use that, but unify that across the scheme and use like different patterns on, or the same pattern on different models to tie everything together. It's like a really big point for like how you paint an army cohesively, but having them in a game like Infinity where every model is literally a different model, having them be cohesive but also unique.
Yeah, it's really impressive. I mean, like those Henry and Andy, they're just like they're levels above in terms of the hobby. They're so
They
so
get
smart.
it. Like
and
their
their stuff
brain
they
just
know
clicks with whatever this is. They get it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and they work so hard at it as well. Like the content they put out, on top of like running a Kickstarter, running an online painting competition.
Busy people.
They're doing obviously the in person. Yeah. It's like to be able to juggle all those things is it's very impressive.
Yeah, I can barely juggle painting, playing, and YouTube. I can't imagine doing all that.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? They're very, very smart people.
Yeah.
What about you, Taylor? What's your favorite?
Oh,
Most proud.
Right now, it's probably the Garlgast, because that's my most recent model that I've pushed to like. And like you said, it's not. I can look back at it and be like, "Oh, I should have done more work there. I should have done this more." But like, I had a vision for how I wanted the skin to look, and the vision came true. I had a vision how the armor wanted to look. I did that. I pushed myself. I masked the whole model. It took too long, but I did it. And it was like, I definitely learned. And that was a model I learned how to do texture on, and it turned out great. And now I can use that texture technique and like the actual applying the fine lines onto other models.
Yeah.
That's probably my the one I showed most people the most. It's also the most shocking. They're like gloss paint and matte paint. Like it draws the most attention.
Yeah.
But probably the most fun one I've done is now that Mage Hunter Commander. Because like it's so simple. It was like a 2.5 hours worth of work total, like with drying times included. And it turned out fantastic. And like the Kador too. It's like I think those are my most fun models I've painted in a while because it's so simple. It's so like turn your brain off, don't have to stress about it. And it's just like it is so easy to do. And like I think that's the best part of me recently is like I think that's why I like sponge painting so much because it's so simplified.
Yeah.
It is just
And it
take a
looks really
sponge
good.
and stab the crap out of a model, and then you do a little bit less in the brighter areas, and that's it. And then you're done.
Yeah, it's
That rocks.
fun when you find a technique like that. They just click and it's like, oh, this is great. This is so much like so relaxing and so much fun. And you
It's
can
like a
just
palette
ease into it and
cleanser
enjoy it.
for painting.
Yeah.
What about you,
How about you,
Ross?
Ross? What's your favorite?
I think I've also got two. I think the Storm Surge is probably one of my favorites because it's one of the like pinnacle of my Warhammer painting, and that is like the culmination of 4 years of playing the game and painting. And I was super proud of the like I picked out. That was like the first time I ever picked out my own color scheme. So I'd always followed the box too. I did. I mean, it's tons of sub chapters of Dark Angels, but I started with the green. Then I was like, okay, what if I played this group, then this group? And then for Tau, I was like, I'm gonna do my own thing. I want to do like Asimov, like orange, black, yellow, or orange, black, white, and gray. And I had gotten a lot of good inspiration, and the Storm Surge was kind of like the culmination of all of that. My wife bought it for me. Oh, I don't even think we were married yet. Yeah, I don't think we were. She got it for
Is that why
Christmas.
you married her? Because she bought it for you?
Yeah, that's it right there. That was it.
No reason.
It's good enough for me. And yeah, so that was like my favorite big model. It'll stay on my mantle for eternity. And then for my other favorite model, I have this little like goblin dude. I don't know if you can see him. No, it's gonna mess it up.
Nice.
Yeah, you can't really see him very well. But he's a I played this like 4 year long Dungeons and Dragons campaign. It was like a space dungeon. It's called Starfinder. And
yeah, from Paizo.
Yep, love Starfinder. Fantastic. Love Pathfinder, love Starfinder. And we played this like 3.5 year, almost 4 year long campaign. And I played this little goblin guy. I had just got a bunch of 3D printers, and I designed him from scratch with Hero Forge, printed everybody's characters, and then painted everybody's characters. And he was the last one I did. And I had a little robot that went with him, and it was so much fun. And he's got a ton of sentimental value because it's 3 years of my life that I will like always cherish and remember with some of my most close friends. And he turned out fantastic. I mean, he's not crazy or anything, but I like that's the model where like I could see him in my head, and it just the paint made it happen.
Yeah.
So those
That's
are
amazing.
Very cool.
Love
Thanks.
That. That's such a cool story.
Yeah. No, the sentimental model is always like that's why I'm happy I have
100%.
some of those older models from my life. I'm like, oh, there's my first Space Marine. There's my first Orc. Or like one of my sentimental models, like my first like finalist pin from Golden Demon from way back when. Like that's a model that was really cool.
Huge sentimental guy. Like I got one of my friends is like an actual artist. I am a dabbler at most. And she made us all from our other campaign that lasted forever. She painted all of our characters. And like
that's awesome.
Made them for all of us. So this is all of us. I was the dungeon master, so we did the old 1990s cartoon or 1980s, or however long, a million years ago cartoon. But like each one of these people was a friend, and we've all moved away and like don't see each other. So this is kind of like super cool to kind of just have and keep forever. I'm a big sentimental guy. Like I like keeping weird stuff that reminds me of good times.
Yeah, that's understandable. I like that.
Yeah. Cool. That kind of wraps up this episode. Do you have anything else you want to talk about real quick, Spencer, at all?
No, I don't think so. I think just like it's nice just chatting about the hobby, really, isn't it? Like it's nice.
Yeah.
Especially like something that's kind of new to me, like with War Machine and like, you know, speaking to people who obviously know like deep into it and like know all the stuff. It's just nice. Yeah. Really good chat.
Well, welcome to the War Machine community. We're happy to have you here. It's good to have you.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. This was super fun. So
yeah, 100%. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you?
So everywhere on the internet, pretty much, I am at Spens Painting, except for TikTok, which is Spens_painting. So yeah, someone already had that handle. And yeah, I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, all the social medias.
Nice. And all your links will be down below for anybody who needs it.
Thanks.
Yeah, be sure to check Spencer out. He's fantastic, like phenomenal.
We're gonna make him the best Chimera player that the world's ever seen.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
All right, Ross. Hit us
That'd be impressive. I'm not that good at games.
Outros.
Yeah, me neither.
Don't worry. We got you.
Me neither. Well, hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate you guys listening. If you're still here, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, share us with your friends. We'd really appreciate it. Check out Spencer, he's fantastic. And other than that, have a fantastic day. Love you guys, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Yeah.